Did you know that over 70% of gas sold in America doesn't have enough detergents to keep your engine clean? That's why over 500,000 cars break down each year from carbon buildup alone. So today, I'm going to tell you which gasoline brands you should never use. And at the end, I'll show you 5 that actually protect your engine. It's the same fuel I used in my Ram 1500 to hit 400,000 miles with the original Hemi. Let's start the countdown at number 10. Safeway gas stations. Ever wonder why your car starts running rough a few days after filling up? You get a weak idle, sluggish throttle, and sometimes the check engine light pops on for no reason. That's what happens when you're burning fuel that's more budget than quality. Safeway's gas might look cheap at the pump, but it's costing you more in the long run. Independent fuel tests have shown their detergent levels are way below what's recommended by automakers. That means your injectors and intake valves collect carbon much faster than they should. And once that buildup starts, your engine doesn't run clean. It runs tired. I've pulled apart engines that were loyal to this brand. We're talking sticky valves, black soot coating the spark plugs, and a sluggish response like the car's fighting to breathe. Last month, I had a Civic with only 85,000 miles. The intake valve was so caked with carbon, I needed a scraper to clean it. The owner thought she was saving a few cents per gallon. The truth is, she paid $2,000 for carbon cleaning and new injectors. To make things worse, Safeway is not top-tier certified, meaning they don't meet the higher detergent standards trusted by major car makers. When a company skimps on cleaning agents, your engine pays the price. Coming in at number 9, 7-Eleven gas. You'd think a big name like 7-Eleven would care about what goes into their pumps, right? Not really. Most folks don't realize 7-Eleven doesn't refine its own fuel. They buy from whatever local supplier gives them the cheapest deal that week. One station could be decent, but the next one down the road might be pure junk. There's zero consistency, and that's a nightmare for your engine. I've had customers swear their car ran fine until they filled up at a 7-Eleven. Next thing you know, rough idle, hesitation, poor mileage. Some even reported their car knocking on acceleration, which is a sign of low-quality fuel or water contamination. Just last week, a guy brought in his Camry. He filled up at 7-Eleven, and within 10 miles the engine was misfiring. We tested the fuel and found it had 18% ethanol when the pump said 10%. That extra ethanol was destroying his fuel system. There have been multiple reports over the years of 7-Eleven stations selling gas tainted with too much ethanol or sediment from old underground tanks. The few pennies you save there can turn into hundreds in repair bills later. Trust me, cheap gas isn't worth it. Next up, number 8. Sam's Club. Here's the thing about warehouse gas stations. They're built for volume, not quality. Sam's Club is a perfect example. Their fuel comes from a mix of local suppliers, and that means no guaranteed formula and no consistent quality control. One tank might be fine, but the next might have enough contaminants to make your injectors cry. I've seen cars come into the shop with clogged filters, uneven idle, and even hard starts in cold weather. When we drained the fuel, it smelled stale and looked cloudy. That's usually a sign of moisture or sediment. At number 7, we have Circle K. This one's sneaky because it's everywhere. You see that bright red sign and think it's a reliable brand. But Circle K doesn't make its own fuel either. They buy whatever's cheapest from local distributors. That means your engine becomes a test subject for whatever mystery blend they got that week. I've seen engines gummed up after months of Circle K fill-up sticky injectors, carbon-coated valves, and misfires that come and go like ghosts. When we run a borescope inside the cylinders, you can literally see the black deposits sitting on the piston tops. I had a customer with a Tahoe who filled up at a Circle K on a Sunday night. Monday morning, it wouldn't start. We found water had separated in the fuel tank, the fuel pump was toast, and the injectors were corroded. The total bill was $3,400 from one tank of bad gas. In 2020, several Circle K stations were fined for water-contaminated fuel that damaged dozens of vehicles. If you've ever had rough idling or stalling right after a fill-up, hit that like button and drop your experience in the comments. It helps other drivers avoid this mess. And don't forget to subscribe because we're exposing the next brand, and it's tied to one of the biggest retail chains in America. It's Murphy USA, the gas station you find in Walmart parking lots. They built their business on being the cheapest, but when you cut costs, quality is the first thing to go. Usually it's the detergent package that gets weakened. I've seen so many cars come into the shop with issues directly linked to this fuel rough idling. sputtering, and even premature fuel injector failure. People think their car is just getting old, but in reality, it's struggling with low-grade gas. I remember a 2017 Silverado with only 68,000 miles. It came in shaking so violently, I thought it was going to fall apart. All 8 spark plugs were fouled. There was carbon scoring in the cylinders, and the catalytic converter was starting to clog. The owner had saved maybe $300 over 3 years by using cheap gas, but he ended up with a $4,200 repair bill. Fuel sample data from multiple states shows Murphy's detergent levels often don't meet top-tier standards, and their ethanol content can be inconsistent. That inconsistency messes with your car's fuel trims and makes it burn dirty. Back in 2018, several Murphy stations in Texas and Louisiana were even investigated for selling contaminated fuel after dozens of cars stalled right after filling up. The company blamed their suppliers, but that excuse gets old fast. Saving $1 at the pump might feel good, but your engine is paying the price with every mile. Next up, a brand that pretends to be a performance fuel but is one of the dirtiest I've ever seen. Number 5 is Speedway. With its bright lights and clean stations, it looks like a solid choice. But don't let the appearance fool you. Their gas often comes from various local suppliers, meaning you never really know what you're putting in your tank. I've worked on plenty of engines that ran exclusively on Speedway fuel for years, and the pattern is always the same: heavy carbon buildup on the valves, sluggish acceleration, and terrible fuel economy. When we test the gas, it's almost always low on detergents. Detergents are crucial for keeping your engine clean. Without them, carbon quickly turns into performance-robbing sludge. A woman brought in her Honda Accord after it died right after a fill-up at Speedway. We drained 14 gallons of fuel that was nearly 40% water. The fuel pump was already showing signs of corrosion, and the injectors were starting to rust internally. A single tank of bad gas was destroying her engine from the inside out. And it gets worse. In 2020, some Speedway stations were caught selling fuel with high water content after heavy rains. Drivers would fill up, drive a mile, and their cars would start sputtering or just die. Water and gasoline are a terrible mix. It rusts the fuel system and kills fuel pumps. Speedway isn't a top-tier certified brand, which speaks volumes. They only meet the bare minimum government standards, and that's not what I call quality fuel. So, while the brand looks polished, what's in the pumps tells a very different story. Now for a brand that many travelers trust, but that trust might be misplaced. Number 4. Love's Travel Stops. Truckers and road trippers love this chain because it's everywhere and always open. But convenience doesn't mean quality. Their fuel has been flagged multiple times for contamination and poor storage tank maintenance. When you're moving that much fuel across hundreds of locations, keeping every tank pristine is nearly impossible. I've had customers fill up at Love's before a long trip, only to break down halfway. We drain the tank and find cloudy fuel with visible sediment. That's dirt and water, plain and simple. A family on vacation filled their minivan at a Love's in Arkansas and only made it 73 miles before breaking down on the interstate. The fuel filter looked like green jello from microbial growth, and every single injector was partially clogged. The fuel tank needed a professional cleaning, a $2,300 repair from a $50 fill-up. In 2022, drivers in Oklahoma and Missouri filed complaints after Love's gas caused their cars to stall. Inspectors found microbial growth in the underground tanks, which clogs filters and injectors like glue. Their diesel fuel isn't much better either. Trucking forums are filled with stories of inconsistent quality. Love's isn't top-tier certified, so there's no guarantee of the detergents needed to protect your engine. It's cheap and easy to find, but it's a gamble every time you pull up to the pump. If you think that's risky, the story behind our next brand goes even deeper. Number 3 is Amoco. This one surprises a lot of people who think of it as a trusted old-school brand. But here's the reality. Since BP acquired Amoco, its fuel is essentially just BP regular gas with a different logo. The problem is, BP's regular blends have been criticized for having weak detergent levels compared to top-tier brands like Chevron or Shell. EPA records even show complaints about Amoco fuel causing carbon buildup in modern direct injection engines. When that happens, your car loses power, idles rough, and burns more fuel. I had a 2019 Malibu with 61,000 miles come in running, like it had 200,000. 3 years of using Amoco fuel had created valve deposits so thick you couldn't even see the metal. The injectors had to be completely replaced. The owner thought the name meant quality, but he was basically buying BP's lower-grade fuel with a nostalgic logo on it. I've seen it firsthand, engines with just 60,000 miles running like they've done 150,000, all because of dirty valves and injectors. And despite the marketing, not all Amico stations are top-tier certified. Some locations use older storage tanks that can leak moisture into the fuel. The name might sound classic, but don't let nostalgia fool you. This isn't the Amico of the past. Next up, at number 2, we have Pilot Flying J Now. Here's a brand that's been in the news for all the wrong reasons. Pilot Flying J isn't just a truck stop. It's been at the center of one of the biggest fuel rebate scandals in history. Back in 2013, the FBI raided their headquarters after the company admitted to cheating truckers out of fuel rebates. Millions of dollars gone, all while claiming to serve America's hardworking drivers, but the trouble didn't stop there. Many drivers still complain about the fuel quality. I've had folks come in after long trips saying their diesel pickups started knocking or losing power right after filling up at Pilot. I remember one trucker with a Cummins diesel who used Pilot exclusively for a year. The result? His injectors were scored and leaking. The fuel pump was cavitated from water contamination, and the particulate filter was clogged beyond cleaning. The repair bill came out to a whopping $8,700. He might have saved maybe $500 that year on fuel, but look at the cost. Some of that fuel, when tested, showed high levels of water or heavy sediment from old tanks. That's what happens when a company focuses more on sales than on what actually coming out of the nozzle. Sure, they're convenient, but when your engine's life depends on clean fuel, convenient just doesn't cut it. And if you think that's bad, buckle up, because our number 1 spot makes all of this look tame. At number 1, we're talking about companies busted for selling toxic waste fuel. This isn't just bad, it's criminal. I'm talking about shady fuel distributors who've been caught selling waste fuel and passing it off as regular gasoline. Companies like Lamb Fuels have made headlines for doing exactly this. They were accused of selling contaminated and hazardous waste fuel to gas stations across several states, stuff that should never, ever touch a car engine. We're not just talking minor contamination. We're talking fuel laced with used oil, solvents, and even chemical byproducts from industrial waste. According to EPA case files, some of these operations blended hazardous waste into fuel just to cut costs, then sold it to unsuspecting stations. The worst case I ever saw was a family who filled up at a station that bought this contaminated fuel. They made it just 31 miles before the engine seized solid. The fuel had literally dissolved the oil. That engine was so destroyed it was just scrap metal. $7,000 for a new engine, all from one tank of poison. Drivers would fill up, and suddenly their engines were knocking, smoking, or just plain dead within days. I've seen engines ruined beyond repair because of this garbage fuel, melted injectors, clogged filters, destroyed catalytic converters, you name it. The scariest part? Most drivers never even knew what hit them. These aren't just corner cutters. They're criminals who put profit over people. But here's the good news, not every brand plays dirty. Some actually go above and beyond to protect your engine. Let's talk about the top 5 gasoline brands that will save your engine. Coming in at number 5 is Chevron with Techron. Now this is what real fuel should be. Chevron's Techron formula isn't just some marketing gimmick. It's one of the strongest detergent blends ever approved by automakers. It literally scrubs carbon off your valves, pistons, and injectors while you drive. I've torn down engines with over 150,000 miles that ran mostly on Chevron, and they were clean as a whistle inside. Techron keeps fuel systems running smooth by preventing that sticky buildup that kills your mileage and power over time. I had a customer with an Accord that had 280,000 miles, all on Chevron. When we did the valve adjustment, I was shocked. It looked like a 50,000-mile engine inside spotless valves, clean pistons, perfect injectors. It's also top-tier certified, which means it meets and often beats the standards carmakers recommend. That's why mechanics and performance drivers trust it. Sure, it might cost a few cents more per gallon, but you'll save far more in repairs down the road. Next up, at number 4, is another heavy hitter, Shell V-Power Nitro Plus. Shell S-Fuel is one of the few that actively fights engine buildup instead of just slowing it down. Their nitrogen-enriched cleaning system forms a protective barrier inside your engine that helps stop carbon and gunk from sticking to metal parts. It's like armor for your valves and injectors. Cars that run on Shell for years consistently show clean combustion chambers and a smooth idle. What really stands out is the consistency. Every Shell station follows strict top-tier standards, so you know exactly what you're getting, no matter where you fill up. I remember a customer with a Lexus IS 350 with 195,000 miles of nothing but Shell. The engine internals looked factory fresh. The original injectors had never been cleaned, but were still flowing perfectly. Compression tests showed numbers like a brand new engine. Shell spends more on fuel research than some countries spend on their energy budgets. Their V-Power Nitro Plus doesn't just meet standards, it exceeds them by 40%. It's not the cheapest fuel, but you can feel the difference in throttle response and overall performance. And if Shell's protection impressed you, wait until you hear about the next brand. It's one of the most dependable fuels in the country. ExxonMobil, a brand built on consistency and science. Their Synergy gasoline blend is packed with cleaning agents designed to protect critical engine parts from carbon and corrosion. I've personally seen older engines that ran mostly on ExxonMobil fuel. The valves were clean, injectors spotless, and there was no hesitation under load. That's no accident. What really makes them stand out is that even their regular grade fuel meets top-tier standards. You're not getting a watered-down mix here. Every single gallon has the same powerful detergent formula, whether you're buying regular or premium. Just to give you an example, a customer brought in his Tundra with 340,000 miles for a timing belt change. He swore by ExxonMobil and used nothing else. When I pulled the valve covers, it looked like someone had just detailed the inside of the engine. There was no sludge, no varnish, just clean metal. This means you get cleaner burns, smoother idles, and fewer long-term issues like engine knock or valve buildup. It's a fact that ExxonMobil has more fuel patents than any other company. They aren't just selling gas. They're selling molecular engineering. It's solid, dependable fuel you can trust anywhere in the country, not hit or miss like some discount stations. And if you appreciate ExxonMobil for its reliability, our number 2 pick might just surprise you. At number 2 we have Costco gasoline. Now, I know what you're thinking. Most people assume warehouse gas means it's cheap and low quality, but Costco completely flips that idea on its head. Their fuel is top-tier certified, which means it meets the same high detergent standards as major brands like Chevron or Shell. In fact, independent lab tests have shown that Costco gas often contains more cleaning additives than many of those big-name fuels. I've seen plenty of high-mileage cars that run exclusively on Costco fuel with zero buildup issues. Their secret is simple: volume and cleanliness. They move so much fuel that it's always fresh, and they are obsessive about keeping their storage tanks spotless. Clean tanks mean clean gas, and clean gas means a happy engine. I had a customer with 315,000 miles on his 4Runner who had used only Costco gas for the last 10 years. When we did an engine teardown for a head gasket, the internals looked better than most 100,000-mile engines I see. No deposits, original injectors, and perfect compression. Costco turns over their entire tank inventory every 24 to 48 hours, so you never get stale fuel. They conduct monthly tank inspections, use aerospace-grade filtration, and even have automatic contamination detection. You get top-notch quality and still pay less per gallon. It's the unicorn of gasoline. But if you think Costco is impressive, wait until you hear about our number 1 brand. Alright, the number 1 spot goes to Sunoco, and it tops this list for a very good reason. Sunoco fuel isn't your average pump gas. It's engineered to actively clean your engine as you drive. The detergent package in their blend is so powerful that it can actually remove existing carbon buildup over time. I've seen engines that switched to Sunoco's Ultratech fuel after years of running on cheap gas. Within just a few tankfuls, the idle smoothed out and the throttle response came roaring back to life. Of course, it's also top-tier certified, meeting strict standards set by automakers. I had a customer who switched his Range Rover to Sunoco after dealing with persistent carbon buildup issues. 3 months later, we scoped the cylinders, and the deposits were literally dissolving. His power returned, his mileage improved by 15%, and the engine ran as smooth as silk. Sunoco claims their fuel keeps engines up to 60% cleaner than fuels without enough detergents, and from what I've seen in my shop, that is no exaggeration. The technology actually bonds with the metal at a molecular level, creating a protective barrier that prevents future deposits from forming. Yes, it might cost a little more at the pump, but your engine will thank you. Clean valves, better combustion, and smoother performance. It's worth every single penny. If you truly care about the long-term health of your engine, this is the fuel you want in your tank. Now, you might be using good fuel, but are you still believing some of the common myths about how to use it? Some of the fuel tips people swear by are actually killing their engines slowly. Subscribe to the channel because in my next video, I'll expose the myths that make even smart drivers look stupid.